I'd like to call the meeting of Municipal Council of the District of Lunenburg to order. It's Tuesday, February the 10th. It's just 6 o'clock and our council members are assembling. We'll call this and acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and we are privileged to share the land with them. Are there any announcements, acknowledgements, or recognitions from council members this evening? Okay. I'm not seeing any, so.
Good evening, council members. I'd just like to take the opportunity to introduce Sherry Turner, who's here in the back. If you wouldn't mind standing up, Sherry. She's our new Communications and Public Engagement Officer. She comes with ample experience both from Health PEI and before that Acadia University. She's been going through lots of document review, just getting her feet under her in this first week or so. But we're very excited to have her on board and to be continuing some of the great communication and engagement work that council started at the beginning of your term.
Yeah, welcome. Do we have a lot for you to do? Sure. Maybe we can start with Councillor Reinhardt and just introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Morgan Reinhardt. I'm the councillor for District 1, which is Petite Riviere, Italy Cross, Middlewood, Vogler's Cove, Broad Cove, and I won't list all of the communities, but that area.
Hello, welcome to MODL. I'm the councillor for District 2. I won't name any of the communities because you'll learn them as the time goes by. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Wendy Oikel. I'm for District 3, and that includes Waterloo and Wildville, Hebville, Hebbs Cross, part of Camperdown, Laconia, and Lapland.
Hi, welcome. I'm Pam Hubley, Councillor for District 4.
Welcome. My name is Kathy Moore. I'm Councillor for District 5, which is New Germany and surrounding areas.
Welcome. I'm Elspeth McLean-Weil, and I have the privilege to be mayor.
Hi, I'm Allison Smith, Councillor for District 6, neighboring Councillor Moore.
Hi, I'm Edgar Burns, District 7.
Welcome. I'm Ben Brooks. I'm Councillor for District 9, which is Kingsburg to Dayspring and everywhere in between.
Good evening. I'm Chastity Vino, Councillor for District 10, and I'm also the current Deputy Mayor. And I have all the communities that surround town of Lunenburg, and also Big and Little Tancook Islands fall within my district as well. Welcome.
So we'll look forward to working with you because, as I said in the beginning, we have lots to do, and our council has been very committed to communication and public engagement, and we want to continue with that. So we look forward to working with you. Today, I want to read a proclamation on Wear Red Day, and unfortunately, in my wardrobe, I own literally nothing that's red. The closest I could come was thinking about Valentine's Day was something really bright and pinkish, so that's as close as red I can get. Whereas heart disease is the #1 killer of women worldwide and the leading cause of premature death for women, Canadian women, a fact unknown to many women and their healthcare providers. And whereas Canadian Women's Heart Health Alliance is an organization of volunteer health professionals and patients working hard to improve women's heart health. And whereas Wear Red Canada Day is celebrated annually to raise awareness for all Canadians, but especially Canadian women, to be mindful, curious, and proactive in the management of their heart health and wellness. And whereas we want to see better prevention, diagnosis, and care and fewer women dying prematurely from heart disease. Therefore, I, Elspeth McLean-Weil, Mayor, do hereby proclaim February 13th, 2026, Wear Red Canada Day in the municipality of the District of Lunenburg. So I guess I still have till Friday to wear red. Probably won't, but I'll keep wearing my pink shirt. Is there anyone here for public input Mr. Appleby, I understand you're here just to see your, I shouldn't say just, but to support the recommendation on private road designation. And we do encourage residents to attend our meetings or watch by YouTube. And if you do show up for a meeting and you wish to speak on an issue, we do allow time at the beginning of each meeting for that and encourage resident participation in our activities and our decision-making processes. We should have a motion to approve the agenda. Would someone do that? Moved by Councillor Hubley, seconded by Councillor Brooks. All in favor signify by raising their hand. Thank you. Motion is carried unanimously. We have minutes from January 27th, 2026. These are minutes from our council meeting. Are there any errors or omissions or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, I'll declare the minutes approved as circulated. We have no business arising from the minutes? Or do we?
No, we don't. The previous council meeting was held during a snowstorm, so it was done remotely, and therefore there was no public input.
Okay. We do use the time during business arising from the minutes to report on issues that may have been raised by residents during public input in the previous related meeting. So our online meeting in that snowstorm didn't allow for public input. We have no awarding of tenders, no presentations scheduled, and no correspondence for consideration. We'll move to recommendations from committees and boards, and we'll move to the Finance Committee and the Region 6 budget. And is anyone going to speak to this? Do you want to? I'm looking around and
Sure,
just, okay. Ms.
Thank you,
Wenzel,
Elena.
our Director of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So at the Finance Committee, you had your presentation from Christy McClare from the Region 6 Waste Management Group that came to talk to you about what Region 6 does and that we do, as a municipality, have to approve their budget. The municipality's share has not changed, but because of some of the issues they're finding with dairy credits and things like that, that our costs have gone up a little bit. And so they're looking for a motion for council to approve our share of the budget, which is $40,929.62.
I should say that the details of that presentation, if people want to go back and look at it, can be watched on our YouTube video, our meeting from February the 3rd, which would have been our Finance Committee where that presentation was made. Would someone put the motion on the floor, please? Councillor Moore?
To Mayor McLean-Wall and members of council, I move that municipal council accept the recommendation of the Finance Committee and approve the 2026-27 Region 6 budget with the municipality of the District of Lunenburg share being $40,929.62, and I so move.
Do we have a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Burns. Is there discussion or questions on that? All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Motion is carried unanimously. We'll move on to 10.1.2, the 2026-27 proposed area rates for streetlights and hydrants.
Yes, thank you. So you did have a discussion as a committee on this last week with the Finance Committee. And our accounting manager, Angela Vino, explained how our area rates are set. We look at the revenue that we're going to get from the assessed values of the property or from the flat rates per property, depending on how those rates are set up for streetlights. Hydrants is based on assessment. And we do a running balance, so we set a budget based on the costs, and then we collect the funds through the tax rates. And if there is a differential, we'll take that into account into the next year. So we did a presentation on how much the streetlights were changing and that we were looking for a reduction in the hydrant rate to 0.0898 per hundred of assessment.
Someone put the motion on the floor, please, related to streetlights and hydrants. Councillor Smith.
To Mayor McLean-Weil and members of council, I move that municipal council accept the recommendation of the Finance Committee and approve the 2026-2027 fire hydrant rate of 0.0898 per $100 of assessment, and the 2026-2027 street light rates as presented.
And a seconder for the motion, seconded by Councillor Burns. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by raising their hands. Motion is carried unanimously. We'll move to 10.2, which is Regional Emergency Management Organization Advisory Committee, and the budget presentation. I'm going to speak to that. Thank you.
So the Regional Emergency Management Organization has adopted a slightly revised budgeting process, partly coming out of the governance discussions happening with the District of Chester and the other partners. So we're not actually looking for a motion tonight, but we're looking for input if there's any concerns around the budget. So all of the information that the advisory committee reviewed is in your package tonight. I think it's most useful, though, to just focus in on the actual budget, which is on page 24 of your agenda. You can see the different elements. Essentially, the major change in the budget between last year and this year is the Department of Emergency Management grant is allowing us to undertake some projects that we had hoped to do, and this is speeding up our ability to do them. It's a $100,000 grant that we've received this year, and we're expecting to receive next year as well. And so our gross budget is going to be $480,000 with the grant revenue deducted from that. The part that needs to be shared between partners is $380,880.33. Again, the budget is slightly changed because of the negotiations with our other partners. So the formula has changed, and there's now a base amount that's required for each partner to pay in, and then the remainder of the cost is shared over uniform assessment. The formula used to be only based on uniform assessment, which is a rough measure of each municipality's ability to pay. By requiring a base amount, it requires some of the smaller partners that were maybe getting a financial advantage by being small partners to have to pay a sort of base amount into the project, which is a long way of saying our costs are actually going down as a share of the total REMO budget, which is a nice story that we're not always able to bring you, so I'm very happy to report that. The total amount that we're looking as a net cost for the District of Lunenburg for this fiscal year of the $380,000 is $165,840. There is more detail in the package, but I think that's the high level that we're seeing a gross budget increase as a result of the new funding that we weren't expecting. And that's actually going to reduce the net cost to the partners. And because of the formula, we're also seeing a net reduction in our own share because the smaller units are now paying a more proportional share to the enterprise.
Are there any questions on that or comments that need to be brought back? Okay, we'll, do we need a motion on this?
We would only need a motion if we wanted to provide some commentary
Yeah.
or direction.
But
If council's
generally
generally
agreement.
satisfied, then we can simply report that back to our emergency management staff.
Oh, Councillor Smith.
I'm just wondering about the after-action reports. I'm trying to find it right now in the slides. But I'm just looking at the activations and wondering, so an activation would have an after-action report? This isn't really a budget question. It's more a question of, like, for example, the modal dry wells activation. If there was like an after-action report, would we receive that? It's something I'd be interested in.
After action reports go to the advisory committee, and they're completed when we have a partial activation. I believe the drought and dry wells, REMO was involved in, but didn't have to activate because there wasn't a single sort of crisis point that would have required us to stand up our emergency coordination center. I can double check on that for you, though.
Other questions? Concerns? Okay, we're going to move on then. The next is Fire and Emergency Services Committee, and under 10.3.1, the proposed amendments to policy 035 or 036, Fire and Emergency Services.
So again, I'll provide a quick summary of this for your information and review. The bulk of the changes are happening on page 41 of your agenda package. So this is a project that we have been working on for quite some time with the Fire and Emergency Services Committee, a number of months. In response to some issues in other parts of Nova Scotia, we recognized that there were some gaps in governance that would be useful for us to have, given the impact that some individuals in certain departments in another county had on the perception of the fire service as a whole. So we began the discussions with the Fire Services Committee. They agreed that it would be a good topic for discussion. We held a workshop with members of Lunenburg Regional, a Fire and Emergency Services Committee, and with the Fire and Emergency Services Committee themselves, and developed the concepts. We then pursued some engagement with the fire service on the concepts before drafting these revisions that you have before you today. So the Lunenburg Regional group has had an opportunity to review the content, and the Fire and Emergency Services Committee has recommended it on. So we're at the stage now we're looking to amend Policy 36 of Council, which would implement, which would include a code of conduct now that would be required for chief officers, meaning chief or a deputy chief or anyone acting in either of those positions to adhere to. The process you'll be quite familiar with, as it mirrors the code of conduct for municipal councillors, in that it includes the opportunity for complaints to be received and then reviewed by a third party who's not connected either to the municipality or the fire service. And then a small board made up of FESC members would review the report and determine if there was necessary action, would then come to council confidentially through an in-camera session, where council could then make a determination whether there had been a breach of a code and if there was any remedies required. The remedies themselves speak to training, education, apology, all the way up to having to remove an individual from one of those positions. And then impacts on actual registration of the fire service if the department wasn't willing to comply, which is essentially the only tool that council has based on the current governance structure. But the commentary with the fire service was that this was a needed change, and they're supportive of it, given the potential risks that there are to the fire service as a whole if there is an individual who's not acting in accordance with the standards in the conduct. So happy to take any questions, and then we're looking for a motion to give notice of 7 days to amend the policy.
Councillor Oikel.
I'm wondering about the acknowledgement part, where it says, as part of an annual registration process, chief officers must confirm they understand their obligations and agree to comply with this code. Will they be signing something? Is that how we're going to know that it will have an actual document? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
so chief officers are involved in the annual registration process, so there's quite a large package that each
Right.
department has to complete, and so there'll be a new addition there.
And chief officers, does that include the treasurer, the secretary?
No.
Okay, so do we need to be more specific?
No, there is
on
a definition. I may have steered you wrong there. The bulk of the changes are in section 12 and 13 of the policy, but there is an amendment to the definitions section of the policy as well. Chief officer means a department chief, deputy chief, or assistant chief, or a member acting as the chief officer of a registered volunteer fire department.
Thank you.
Other questions? This is really an important addition to the policy, and one that I think it took some time to kind of work through, but part of working through with getting to this stage was getting everyone to basically support and recognize the need for this kind of addition to the policy. So I think it maybe took longer than everybody had hoped, but I think in the end, usually you get a better product when you get good buy-in across the board. So would someone put the motion on the floor then? Councillor Bell?
To Mayor McLean-Weil and members of council, I move that Municipal Council accept the recommendation of the Fire and Emergency Services Committee and approve the amendments to Policy 036, Fire and Emergency Services, as presented, and give 7 days' notice of council's intention to approve the proposed amendments at the February 24th, 2026 council meeting. I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Hubley. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by raising their hands. Motion is carried unanimously. We'll move on to staff reports from Planning and Development. Ms. Schaefer will lead us through the discussion on private roads. And the first one is 11.1.1, which is private road maintenance charge levy on the Elmwood Road Extension Association. On the Elmwood Road and from the Elmwood Road Extension Association.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor McLean-Weil and Municipal Council. The municipality has a private roads bylaw that allows associations to submit application for us to enter into an agreement to collect private road maintenance fees on their behalf. So we've received an application from the Elmwood Road Extension Association to follow through and request council to levy charges pursuant to that bylaw to collect the road maintenance fees for Elmwood Road Extension, which is in Elmwood. The association has submitted the package, which includes petitions supporting 59%, so 29 out of 49 of the lots were in favor of proceeding with this request. They've identified that it will be a uniform charge per lot outlined, and that each properties that are owned, members that own more than one property will only receive one charge. So if you own two properties, you'd only be charged one time. So that was one of their requirements. So they've submitted everything. It does meet the application requirements. The private roads bylaw does indicate that the association is responsible for performing or contracting all the work. It indemnifies the municipality from any liability or responsibility. So we're basically collecting the fees on the tax bills and giving it back to the association to do their work. I've outlined what their budget requirements are for this year, and the request does satisfy the requirements of the private road bylaw. There is an alternative. Council could refuse it and require the association to collect the fees, although the requirements are met. I've included a draft agreement for council to look at, and it has been reviewed by the solicitor. The municipal solicitor's confirmed everything's in order.
Thank you. Could we have the motion put on the floor? Councillor Brooks?
To Mayor McLean-Weil and members of council, I move that municipal council levy a maintenance charge within the charge area identified by the Elmwood Road Extension Association as a uniform amount per lot, with property owners receiving only one charge regardless of the number of lots they own, and further, that the 2026-2027 charge be set at $100 per lot, subject to an agreement being entered into that satisfies Section 9 of the bylaw 040, private roads. I so move.
And a seconder, seconded by Councillor Smith. Is there discussion on, Councillor Brooks?
Thank you. I'm curious, is it just a simple majority it's just a simple majority?
Yeah, the private roads bylaw requires 50 plus 1%.
Great, thank you.
Other questions, discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by raising their hands. Motion is carried unanimously. I'm going to just ask if our deputy mayor could lead us in the next piece, because I left my mayor's report in my office, so I'm going to just step out and let you run this next piece.
Certainly, and I'll do so from here. So up next, we have item 11.1.2, private road agreement transfer, Rocky Lake Community Association. And Norma, can you provide a brief synopsis on that?
Absolutely. The same type of request. We had previously entered into an agreement with Mr. David Sutherland in 2021. This was before council a couple of months ago for clarification on transfer requirements. So since that time, Mr. Sutherland and members of his community, they have been able to form an association under the Registry of Joint Stocks requirement. So it's now called the Rocky Lake Community Association. That was one of the original conditions of the agreement that we entered into with Mr. Sutherland, is when the association could be formed, we would transfer that agreement to the association and remove the liability from him solely. So all the requirements have been met. He's been able to form the association. No other requirements from the original agreement would change. I've been speaking with the municipal solicitor earlier today. He is working on an assignment agreement, basically to assign the original agreement forward to the association, subject to all conditions. So I should have that in place fairly quickly. So if council agrees to transfer, we can proceed.
Thank you for providing that update. Is there someone willing to put the motion on the floor? Councillor Oikel.
To Deputy Mayor Vino and members of council, I move that municipal council transfer the private road agreement with David Sutherland to the Rocky Lake Community Association, subject to an agreement being entered into that satisfies Section 9 of the bylaw 040, private roads, subject to the municipal solicitor's review, and I so move.
Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Burns. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Next item, 11.1.3, private road maintenance charge levy, the Tanner Road Association.
Thanks. As we can see, this is popular. So yeah, we received another application from the Tanner Road Association. It is a small charge area for Tanner Road in the Maiders Cove area. They have submitted their requirements outlining a tiered charge system based on usage of the road. They have submitted petitions, 64% in favor. All other requirements have been met. So if council's in favor of proceeding, we can continue with this one.
I'll just finish off this motion and then the mayor will resume as chair. Can I have somebody willing to bring forward this motion? Councillor Hubley.
To Deputy Mayor Vino and members of council, I move municipal council levy a maintenance charge within the charge area identified by the Tanner Road Association as a uniform amount per lot based on use, with the 2026-2027 charges being set at $150 per lot for 3 lots at the beginning of the road, $300 for remaining lots, and $0 for vacant lots, subject to an agreement being entered into that satisfies Section 9 of bylaw 040, private roads. And I so move.
Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Bell. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Brooks.
Norma, can you just, for anybody that's listening at home, if somebody wanting to do a private road association and they come here, is there a package? What's the information that they would receive to put that into practice?
Yeah, absolutely. There's basically, it's a checklist that we follow, outlining the requirements. The petition is definitely what constitutes the application. We require to know where the road is, the charge area itself, and first and foremost, if they can or have an association formed. We prefer to have the agreement with an association formed through Registry of Joint Stocks. So it's a pretty straightforward process as long as everything is included. The petitions basically will dictate whether it can or can't go forward.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you for bringing those forward, Norma.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We'll move to the mayor, deputy mayors, and councillor matters and an LCLC report. Councillor Hubley.
Thank you. The following reflects the highlights of the LCLC meeting held on January 29th, 2026. The strategic plan was reviewed. The board discussed high, medium, and low priorities. Marta will bring back a complete plan based on the conversation. We will update again when the plan is finalized. The mission and vision statements were discussed and agreed upon. The mission statement is as follows: to enhance the quality of life for all residents by providing a space for accessible and diverse sport, recreation, and leisure opportunities. The vision statement, the LCLC is the regional hub for sport, recreation, and leisure. So they've been cleaned up quite a bit. The operating and capital budgets were reviewed and discussed in depth. It was decided that both budgets would be updated according to board input and brought back to the February 19th, 2026 meeting for further discussion and approval. The board discussed cost recovery policy recommendations. At the November meeting, the board received a memo identifying financial disparities and the need to better align funding, cost recovery, and service delivery. This discussion emphasized the importance of having clearer perimeters, ensuring consistency, and promoting sustainability across facilities, services, and donations. So the donation and sponsorship policy, during the discussion, it was unanimously decided that the LCLC will no longer issue gift cards or donation requests or free passes. Organizations will be directed to the municipalities. This will simplify the process for the LCLC. The policy will reflect this decision. Concession service policy. It was also unanimously decided that we will go forward with the concession services policy. This policy is necessary to establish clear terms and conditions for providing concession and bar services. Food, beverage, and alcohol drink services are optional and not included in standard rental fees. Due to staffing, inventory, licensing, and administrative costs, these services will only be provided under a service agreement. A flat rate will be charged to ensure cost recovery. Finally, our new Zamboni has been delayed. Surprise, surprise. We were expecting the delivery in March, and it has been delayed until June or July. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for Councillor Hubley, who also serves as the chair? So, okay. Deputy Mayor, your report, please.
Yeah, it'll be just a short one. I've attended agenda briefings and just this afternoon, our Regional Growth Management Committee. And for those that might be listening and not sure what that is, this is a meeting held between the municipality and the town of Bridgewaters, with the mayor and deputy mayor sitting at the table with senior staff. And it's a chance for us to discuss challenges and opportunities that each of our units may face and look at ways that we can work together to better serve our municipal units and better yet our residents. Thank you.
And my report for February the 10th. At a recent council meeting, we received a report on our visitor program to the municipality and how this aligned with our tourism initiatives. To become more knowledgeable about the direction we should take on tourism, I attended a meeting hosted by the Department of Communities, Culture, Tourism, and Heritage, outlining the provincial government's tourism strategy. I also attended a webinar about community-based tourism on Fogo Island, Newfoundland. I didn't go to Fogo Island, it was from Fogo Island. I'd like to go to Fogo Island, but this session focused on using community assets to curate a complete visitor experience using community resources, history, and experience. I am convinced we need to have a more focused discussion on the direction of tourism initiatives in the district. I met with Mayor Mitchell to further discussions on the substation project with the town of Bridgewater, and today the Growth Management Committee met and continued to advance discussions with Bridgewater on partnerships on public transit and the substation in the industrial park. I read the report from the Fire Services Association of Nova Scotia on Fire Service Governance Study. There are many significant implications for rural municipalities, with the report recommending the consolidation of many pieces of legislation that ultimately would transfer responsibility for the governance of rural fire service from a community model to the municipality. And I pause. I have many serious concerns about these changes, which essentially would create another department within our staff to manage and finance fire service. The implications are huge for our municipality because of the large number of rural fire departments we have. Tom McEwen, our CAO, will present a short synopsis of the proposed changes at our policy and strategy meeting next week. And I'll make sure that you all receive that report, and I would encourage you to, if you have time beyond what you're reading already, I know you have a lot to read in the next week, but it is important that if you have contact with fire departments, that you talk to them about the implications of this and try to develop some understanding of what their understanding is of the proposed changes. It is probably going to the House, to the legislature in the next 2 weeks, and the implications are very, very dramatic. So there'll be more discussed after our policy and strategy meeting next week. This week, we all received the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw documents. I am working my way through the reading and understanding of draft 2. A shorter version will be prepared, which will be more accessible to the general public in highlighting the significant changes that were made from draft number 1. We will release the report to the public later this month. Both a shorter version and the full document will be available. We've received confirmation from the Minister of Municipal Affairs that our 4th extension to the development of the plan was approved until June 30th, 2026. The draft is expected to be submitted to the Minister's office 6 weeks before first reading. I participated in a workshop on the Green Shores program, which is a nature-based approach to protecting coastal shorelines. This was led by staff from St. Mary's and brought together Indigenous elders with the workshop participants. I was interviewed by a consultant completing a study for the Lunenburg Waterfront Association on development of the waterfront assets in Lunenburg. I was a bit surprised to be included in their interview list, but I gave my opinion. I highlighted the need to recognize the need for economic activity that sustained the assets through businesses that supported year-round commercial activity. A working waterfront is a critical piece of the history of Lunenburg. However, evolution of the history into modern-day businesses that support marine research and technology, marine construction, and food fishery were suggested. Councillor Burns and I met with residents concerned about the safety and condition of the Nogla Road, and like many residents, they shared their frustration with inconsistent road maintenance, snow removal, sanding, and salting, which I know many of you have also heard. The mayors, warden, and CAOs of the county, together with Queen's representatives, met this week and discussed homelessness in our community and our role as municipalities in addressing the related problems. We shared our concerns on the fire services governance study. Nova Scotia Power representatives were present for a debrief and conversation on the recent storms and Nova Scotia Power's response. There was a good exchange on the challenge of demand on the grid as Nova Scotia's population grows and more residents convert to heat pumps. We outlined the need for more timely, accurate information on restoration of power and education for homeowners on appropriate phase-in strategy for households to restore power after an outage. And there were the usual round of meetings, including MJSB and the Lunenburg County Lifestyle Center, along with a well-attended breakfast in Pinehurst this past Saturday. I think everyone was getting cabin fever. With the roads clear and no snow in the air, people came out in droves. It was a very busy morning for the community. And that concludes my report. We could take a motion to move in camera, please. Councillor Burns, seconded by Deputy Mayor Vino. All those in favor, raise their hands. Motion is carried unanimously. We will move in camera. We're resuming our council meeting, and we have no further agenda items. Oh, sorry, Councillor Bell.
I'd like to reply to part of your mayor's update, but we went in camera right away, so I just waited. The position that the province of Nova Scotia has with changing the Aurora Fires Act, the Societies Act, and 3 legislative acts is a download. And the download started a few years ago with the fire service taking the responsibility for fire inspections out of the fire marshal's office and Department of Labor at the time and giving them to the municipality. As you know, we have quite a diverse inspection team, and it's a fair amount of money being spent in that. You're going to more than double that expense, and I'm being just nice about it. It's going to be a lot more than that. I think we need to make it known that at some point, and I understand it is going to be a point probably within this year, this legislation comes our responsibility. We may have to add 3 cents on the tax rate, maybe more than that. There's 2 or 3 high-paying salaries that you will have to make. If you want to obtain a fire chief with CFO after their name, which is professional designation, you're not going to buy them or hire them for $60,000 or $80,000. They'll be in very high demand, and you're going to have to pay the market price. Add that into your budget, and taking on the responsibility for training. I don't mean to sound to be lecturing you, but I think we need to make the public know that this was not a change initiated by the municipal level. It's the same as the EMO budget, where they start asking us to be responsible for the training. That was always paid by the province. I took 5 or 6 courses through EMO. They paid me mileage, they paid me my time, my meals, my lodging, and then all of a sudden, they don't want any of that, but they expect you to carry on. When I say you, the municipalities. It's a sneaky way of downloading stuff onto us. And if we sit back and allow this to happen, guess what? One road at a time will be coming our way. Well, we're just going to add 332, and next year we'll add, parts of Highway 3 for you to be responsible for. It's a very sneaky way to do business. And I don't want to go in more detail than this now, but you have to know what we are going to be expected to pay for. And it's not going to be an easy pill to swallow. They make it sound easy, but even these Band-Aid grants that they give, $3 or $4 million a year that they divide up to buy hose and things like this. This was just their way of putting candy out to the fire service. This was a Band-Aid effect that started years ago, and now they're going to expect us to take that over. Thank you for allowing me to talk, but
I was shocked when I read the report. I said, not only is this going to bankrupt us, but it'll gut rural communities because fire service and fire departments are, in many cases, the last kind of institution in rural communities. And people volunteer, we've got, I think Tom said, 530 volunteer fire people in our service. Just the incredible cost, because we'll be required to do the risk assessment, determine the level of service for areas within the district, and then allocate the equipment that's needed to provide those levels of service. We will appoint the fire chiefs. This is just beyond anything that any of us can consider. So there is we are going to discuss it at policy and strategy meeting next week. So we can, I think we recognize. That's okay. I think we recognize and share the concerns that you said, Councillor Bell, and there is a meeting with the CAOs and the mayors and wardens of the province with the minister, I guess, next Tuesday. But you know what that's going to be like, a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting. And anyway, I'm not really sure how that will all go. But Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities has tabled a paper that they've on this. And so, and I've talked with David Mitchell as well, the president. Allison Smith, our councillor, is part of that as well. So I think there are people that are getting really concerned about what this means, and we will encourage you to have further discussion with your fire departments in your areas to assess their level of understanding, because we think that they don't really understand to the extent that they should what the implications are, and in many cases they have not been consulted, because the consultation was done in the summer on Friday nights last year, and I think 80 out of the 360 or 60 out of the 380 fire departments actually participated. So there'll be more discussion on this next Tuesday. Could we have a motion to adjourn, please? I see no further. Oh, I don't need that. If I don't see any further business on the agenda, the meeting is adjourned.